Hello everyone, welcome back to Coders United. Today we're going to be discussing state hooks. So state hooks are a way for our functional components to hook into React's state management. So there's a few different ways to do this. Let's go ahead and get started by booting up a new React app. I'm going to do this using the create React app command. From here, let's go to our main app.js file, and let's start by importing the useState hook here at the top. So the useState hook is going to allow us to keep track of different variable values in memory. So we'll start here by declaring a variable, and it's going to be equal to two parameters. We're going to have the count parameter and then a function to update that value. And then we're going to set the initial count to 0. So from here, we'll get rid of the template markup and we'll add our own. And I'm going to add a button in here, and this button will say add on it. And then right below the button here, we'll add an output for our count. So I'll parse that there with the curly brackets. And next we can go ahead and we can add onClick event, which will set the count for us. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to target the count's value, and I'm going to add 1 to it each time. So from here we can save our work, head over to our browser, and boot this up. Okay, so now we got booted up. We can see that each time we click the button, it updates the state, and then that is output in the user interface. So next, let's talk about a different way to manage state called useReducer. Now, essentially, it does the same thing, but it's using a reducer-like architecture. So let me show you what I mean. So we're going to start by creating a reducer function. And this function will have two parameters. It's going to have the state parameter and something called an action. And this action will have a type on it. And depending on what the type is, for example, we'll call ours increment, we'll return a different result. So in our instance, we're going to return the count, and we're going to add 1 to the state's count each time the reducer receives an action type of increment. So now we've got a reducer. What we can do is we can create two parameters just like we did with useState, except this time it's the state and a dispatch function, which will update our reducer for us. And now I'm going to set the count 0 to, the initial count to 0. So now we've got that set up. We can then come into our onClick function here, and we can dispatch a action with the type of increment. And last, we can set the state.count as the output. So from here, we can save the value. We can head back to our browser. And as you can see, each time we click it, it increments the count just like it did last time. So that's a couple ways how we can manage local state. Now let's talk about how we manage global state. So in several instances of React apps, we're going to have more than one component. So we'll create another component here called component 1. And what we want to do is we want to share the state between several different components using a global context. So I'm going to go ahead and just start off by returning some simple markup here. And then I'm going to use create context, use context, and useState for this scenario. And from here, we'll erase this old logic, and we'll start new by creating a theme and a set theme update for our local state in the app component. And we'll start off by setting this to light. Okay, so now we've got that set up, we need to create the context, which will be available between all these components. So I'll call it a theme context, and I'll use the create context function here. Okay, so now I've got my theme context. I need to return that as the wrapper for the rest of my components here. As you can see, I'm adding the word provider there. And from here, I can add the value to pass down. So I'm going to use theme as that value that's globally available. And then we'll start off by adding a couple buttons, which the first one will be called light theme. The second one will be called dark theme. And those will allow us to change between themes. And then we'll add our component in here, wrapped within the context. So now to gain access to the theme value, we can use the useContext method and pass in theme context. Alrighty, so from here we can grab that value. We can use our curly brackets to parse it and output to the browser. So last here, we need to go ahead and create another component just so you can see the full effect of this data being shared between multiple components. So I'll go ahead and add that second component here. And finally, we'll add our on-click events for these buttons. So each time they're clicked, it will update the theme for us. And we'll see that change in each of these components. So I'll put a set theme of light for the first event and a set theme of dark for the second event. We can save that and head over to our browser, and you can see it defaults a light theme. When we click on dark, it updates to dark, and vice versa. So that's how you can set a global context if you need to share data between your components. And that's it. That's how you can use the state hooks. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, go ahead and smash that like button, and we'll see you next time.